welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
This week, Zach, we're not doing Super License because there was no... I mean, we are, but we're not. You know what I mean? Like, we can't really get away from it because it's in our DNA. We're doing Super License. We're doing it, except it's not going to be a race recap. It's going to be Dare to Swear, where we watch Drive to Survive, the show that Netflix ripped off of us because we used to talk about F1 and they decided, let's make a show about that. So we get them back by stealing their content back. We're reclaiming it by talking about the top. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to watching this episode. I just was looking at my waveform there and I came in really heavy on the K in my name. There is no K in my name, but there's a K sound.
Far out. It was so heavy you just invented a K.
I don't know. Maybe I feel like if I was to become like a famous artist, maybe I would just move to ZAC on its own. Just ZAC as opposed to ZACH.
What about ZAQ?
Oh, Zach.
With thick, black, dark rim glasses, little pencil-thin mustache. Walk around with a little painting palette on your thumb all the time.
So no different to my current look?
I am Zuck.
Zuck. Yeah, maybe I could get an umlaut over the A as well. So it'd be like Zuck.
Yeah,
like
I know Z's not as fascinating as I'd like, but we'll get there.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm well, Rod. I'm looking forward to doing Drive to Survive, Dare to Swear. I'm looking forward to getting sweary with you. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to getting sweary too. I'll tell you what, you fucking love to see it. So, yeah, we're gonna sync up. If you want to sync up with us, Zach's gonna tell you when to start, and it's a long one, so we're gonna get started soon. But we're gonna sync up with Drive to Survive. You can just listen along if you want. If you want to watch along, that's cool too. I guess those are your only two options. Or you could sync up and watch half of it and then turn it off. Whatever you want to do.
Maybe you read the transcript of the show, but I'm not sure we make that. So maybe you have an app that does that for you.
If so, tell me about it. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Don't tell me.
Because I want to learn. No, just keep it between you and me and you. It's a secret. Ready, Zach? You ready to get started?
Yeah. Do you want me to press go?
Count us down and then press go.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
Dun dun.
There's always this moment where I'm like, can you see and hear this thing? What do we use? We're using the app's called Teleparty. It used to be Netflix Party.
Netflix Party, and then I guess they were like, we want to do things that are not Netflix as well.
Notflix.
And they decided Netflix was not. They decided Netflix was still a little bit copyright infringing. So I don't know. This is going to be it's going to be a long episode. It's going to be a taxing episode, I think. Emotionally.
You know that because the subtitle said ominous music playing.
That's right. That's how you know.
Double header at night. This doesn't feel like it was very long ago in Bahrain. It was ages ago.
I don't know. I mean, it does. I feel like a lot's happened. I mean, everyone's perspective of time is very, very different.
Oh, Alexander Albon being asked if he thinks he'll be here next year and he doesn't have a clue, which is rough, right? He doesn't know what he needs to do. He wants to be there more than anyone,
man. So many poignant shots of the Red Bull garage and in slow motion, them pointing at their head as if to say, like, up there, he's just fucked up there. He just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, the way this is positioned, it's almost like we knew at the time. It was like, I was going to be Perez that goes to Red Bull. But now, the making of the show, they're like, we do know that that's what happened and we can line up all the cuts to be like, oh, Albon has no idea, but maybe Chico Perez does.
The interesting thing, especially about this episode too, because I watched this episode with my girlfriend the first time and she didn't know what had happened at the race or anything, or, the event and none of that. So it's just that interesting thing of like, I know what happens. I know what all of these things are alluding to and what the outcome is, but someone else doesn't. So I got to enjoy like both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the only reason I would have children is to watch the original Star Wars trilogy with them for the Darth Vader moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do remember because my daughter was given some like Star Wars for young people books and you were like, you're going to read them to her? And I was like, yeah. And you were like, you're okay with all those plot points being given away to your daughter before she gets to watch the movies the way George Lucas intended.
Yeah.
Ooh, crumbs.
I'm still not happy about that. Oh, that's a bad crash, Rod.
Yeah. I don't. Oh, man. It's hard. Even when they don't even show it.
Yeah, I didn't know how it would feel knowing that's what would happen, and my body felt funny for a second there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you feel the impact mentally because you know how bad it is.
Yeah, I remember this as well when the drivers were like, this is bad. When the drivers are like that, you're like, oh my fucking God, it's bad.
Yeah. And I remember watching the race and going, oh man, there's a bit of a fire back there, but it looked okay. But then when they pulled over and it was a bit like this. They deliberately didn't show it for a while, and it made you really think like, come on guys, let's just show that driver walking away now. Let's just get to that bit. But the longer it dragged on, and I didn't even get to watch the race live. I had to watch the replay. But it's one of those moments where you just go, I didn't know that we were going to be stopped for like 3 hours or whatever it was, but I couldn't skip forward. I didn't want to watch it any faster. I wanted to just, I wanted to, not that I wanted to live it in real time, but I didn't want to disengage from it either because I was so invested in him being okay.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's fair enough from Roman as well. It's like, hey, you can't find a seat because they're all filled. I don't know if that was specifically Roman Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen's problem here. I think it's just that no one wanted them as drivers.
Well,
they hadn't covered
there's
themselves.
There's a few contributing factors. Yeah, they were probably at Haas a bit too long. Like, they had nowhere else to go, so like, why not? But also, they didn't really have opportunities to jump out of Haas and go and join, and then they get told the news more or less at the end of the year. Sorry guys, we don't need you guys next year, and everyone else has already kind of locked in their seats.
Yeah, I can't remember if they had contracts that were then cancelled, or that both of their contracts just ran out at the end of the season.
Oh man, you're testing me. I feel like Grosjean didn't, but maybe K-Mag had 1 year. Don't know. Just not sure.
The thing is, I think that there were races where Romain Grosjean, we're focused on him because that's what the show is focused on right now.
Yeah,
got more out of that car than maybe they had hoped. But I think that was also coupled with whatever was going wrong at Haas. I don't know if Grosjean and Magnussen could A, do a lot to mitigate it, but B, could even, when they did try to do stuff to mitigate it, were even had the skills to do that. I don't think they were really particularly ringing out any extra performance over the last few seasons at Haas. Yeah.
Definitely, you get a feel for good drivers when you go like, "Oh man, you're out driving the car." But we've seen in previous seasons, even of this show, like the car's no good. How do we make it better? Well, fucked if I know. It's just a bad scene. Do you reckon you could do that? Jump up in the air and spin around like that?
Yeah, it's a bit like Formula One driving around. I feel like the kite board and the kite thing is doing a lot of the work there, and I just need to jump.
Well, it's getting you off the... it wouldn't for me, but for you, for a fit, young, trim person, it would get you off the ground. And then I guess you've just got to spin... I don't know if the board is it's strapped to your foot or something, or if you've got to...
Yeah. No, you glue it to your legs.
Around?
You glue it on, and then you have to get a heat gun out afterwards and unglue it.
Well, no wonder he couldn't drive the car with a kite strapped to his foot. Gee.
Mm.
This is, I have to say though, this is good stuff. I like seeing shots of the drivers doing non-F1 stuff while they're considering F1 moves, talking about things. Like he's having that sort of, looks like a relaxing day at the beach, but you know what's going on in his mind. Like that's why I watch this show. I don't want to just watch highlights of the races.
Yeah, I think Grosjean has a particularly interesting life. He does things. He's chefy, he cycles, he does kite surfing. I think a lot of Formula One drivers have particularly boring lives. I think Lando Norris has a particularly boring life. I think he likes playing video games. I think he likes driving a Formula One car and being on social media. I don't.
That's my life, except he also gets to drive an F1 car.
But you expect a Formula One. I don't think Formula One drivers of current years live particularly glamorous or glitzy lives as maybe they did in previous years. And people like Lewis Hamilton, when they do show off a little bit of their, or that they get caught showing off a little bit of their glitzy lives, be like, oh my God, look at him, he's flying off to LA to record a rap album with a friend. It's like, fuck yeah, man, as he should be. He's a celebrity and a Formula One driver. There aren't many of them. If anything, this show I think has maybe showed to me that Formula One drivers take their jobs very seriously, and like a lot of professional athletes, just don't have a lot of scope to do much else with their lives. And Formula One drivers and F1 teams don't really get a break anymore either. So where would you even build up that time to build up other hobbies and other things, right? They're pretty busy. So, you and I talk about like the personality of Formula One all the time. Do you particularly think there are many big personalities that are particularly interesting in Formula One right now? Like we've got Sergio Perez on screen right now. He's a bit of an F1 robot. Is he interesting?
I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of him, but interesting characters. I mean, the thing is, who was the last great? I mean, you got to say Alonso's got some character. At least the people find his character. When he really turns it on, they find him engaging. Kimi Räikkönen has his fans, obviously, but they're like they're the old guard. That's what you're talking about. I think though you could think just a couple of years ago, the big dynamic relationships in terms of the drivers, like against each other, was Hamilton and Vettel. And it's like, ugh, blah. And now it's Hamilton and Verstappen, but all of a sudden that's like, oh, that's okay. There's something there. There's some bite in that, especially because it's like, I don't know. Hamilton's made it easy to like him, and Verstappen's made it hard to like him. So
that's funny. I think that half the world thinks that, and the other half think the exact opposite.
They can be fucking wrong. I don't give a shit.
No.
I think I just think that those are big, characters and personalities that are interesting and engaging in that way that if it went those two, then you're really struggling once you go deeper than that. To talk to your point.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of media management happening. I think there's a lot of, but we get direct access to drivers, but I think they kind of tiptoe around it, right? They know that their careers are on a knife edge a bit. I think it's become a very, very, very competitive field. I don't think we'll see drivers hang around for very long. I don't think in the time I've been watching Formula One over the last decade, like quite closely, there are many drivers who really make it. Most of them kind of shuffle around a bit. They come in, they're in a team that performs okay. And if the car's okay and the driver's not great, the team replace the driver. And if the driver's good and the car's crap, the driver moves on. I suppose it's always been a bit like that in Formula One. But yeah, I think you've got to take it quite seriously. If you are someone like Esteban Ocon, he knows what it's like, got dumped and came back in and is now a race winner. No spoilers. But it meant so much to him because he knows that his career is on a knife edge. And you'd be like, how can that be the case? He's been in F1 for 4 years now. Daddy Mercedes is his manager. Like, how can that be? But it's like, well, it's a hyper competitive field and there's pay drivers, there's drivers coming up through F2, all this kind of stuff. Maybe they're just not that in. They don't really want to they don't have much time to develop really strong personalities, or they can't let them show either.
Yeah, maybe. Just watching on screen, Alex Albon absolutely ate shit. He did a big spin, went straight into the wall, backwards and sideways, and fuck this car.
Broken
That's
car
messy.
Badly.
And that was the corner too, where maybe that wasn't. I don't know. He's facing the wrong direction now, so I'm getting disoriented. I just thought that was the same corner that a couple of other drivers had problems and went off, did things. Maybe not.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is obviously what they're setting up is like, Chico's available. Not happy with Albon either. What's going to happen there? I think the problem, I guess they're trying to also say like, Grosjean and Magnussen are going to be on the way out too. So who are they going to pick? But I don't know. I wonder what people who don't know what happened, whether they read that and go, oh, gee, it could be anybody. Or whether they're like, well, clearly these two guys are going to swap. Clearly. Yeah,
I wonder, we never thought it would be Esteban Grosjean. Esteban Grosjean, huh?
Romain Grosjean.
Not in Formula One circles. Could go to Red Bull. I don't think that was ever going to happen. I don't think Kevin Magnussen was ever going to go either. I
don't think they would get rid of Albon for him, but
no. But we're halfway through the season. We're looking at Sergio Perez right now on screen and through our current lenses. Do you think he's fulfilled the brief that they're explaining in this episode? Like, Albon can't string together a weekend, can't qualify 4th or 5th, don't even know what the fuck is up there, breaks the car all the time, he's just struggling. Do you think that they hired Perez for those reasons, and do you think he's delivering?
You have to say that he's doing better than, the last, 3 or 4 number 2 drivers at Red Bull, probably since Ricciardo.
Yep.
Everyone since then, he's done better than all of them. I don't know that he's done as well as they were hoping he would. He probably hasn't done as well as I expected him to, But
No, neither.
no, you have to say he's an improvement.
Yeah, he is. And that probably sits quite nicely with Red Bull, right? That they don't really have to worry about him because he's a grown-up.
I suppose.
I think I prefer my number 2 drivers being older. I think that helps. People who know their place in the world. In the Formula One world, I mean. I think Nico Hülkenberg would be the ultimate number 2 driver. Like, any team looking for a number 2 driver right now should be like, you know what, Nico Hülkenberg. Like, to the point where, this is a hot take, but if you were looking for a number 2 driver for Lewis Hamilton, you should go and get Nico Hülkenberg in that Mercedes. I think he would win races. I think he'd do better than Bottas, but he would be perfect. That's number 2. He'd just be so happy to be there.
But, but what's his motivation then, you know?
Well, he can win some races. He's never been on the podium.
But he won't when Lewis is there.
He'll get on the podium, though, and he'll win some races.
Like,
Number 2 at Mercedes will always win a race.
Jeez, I don't know. I feel like you want to set yourself up with someone who's got the potential to be as good as the other driver. Because, I mean, you want a number 2 who's there to, who if he learns good form and good habits from the number 1 driver, if the number 1 driver isn't there, number 2 driver is going to be there to mop up. And maybe the number 2 driver develops, number 1 driver goes off, gets sick in his head or whatever. Boom, you got yourself another number 1 driver.
Have we ever seen that happen? The number 2 develop into the number 1?
I feel like Felipe Massa did that.
Did he?
Went from being like the underdog with Michael Schumacher, and then like Kimi Räikkönen comes in and just swoops in and gets the championship, and then just like gets dumb in the head, just gets completely dumb, and then all of a sudden Massa's there, and he's like, "I'm number 1 now," and he nearly won the championship.
Okay, yeah. Felipe Massa might be.
I don't know. You could say he had a great car and was in the right place or whatever, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's that same narrative playing over the top.
Yeah, I doesn't feel like it's Formula One driver's temperament necessarily to be like, hey, I'm on the up and up, and I'm going to play number 2 until it's my time.
Sure.
Oh, Romain Grosjean.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So we've finally actually seen it. Is this the first time we've seen the fire? It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And see that the car is in half.
Yeah.
One half of the car. At this point, you don't even know where it is. Your brain can't put it together.
Make out
like, there's the car,
is. You're like,
and then there's the
that
fire.
Looks like a car. There's a wheel. It must have come off the car.
Yeah. And you're really kind of looking at the fire because you're not really looking for like someone or a part of the car.
Yeah, you just don't think anything could have gone. It's like, well, there's the fence and the car's on this side, so it must be fine.
Yeah.
It took me ages to understand that the car went through those barriers.
Yeah.
It took me so
and that
long.
He's in there struggling.
And he's right there. Like the other half of the car is there and he's still got to get out.
Jesus Christ. What would you be thinking if you're Gunther Steiner? He's probably good in those situations, actually.
I mean, you'd be thinking it's bad, but there's nothing. I don't think there's anything in our like shared experience of watching Formula One from the last 3 decades that's like, well, he's dead. You know what I mean? There's nothing.
Yes.
Until it goes on and on and on and on and on, and they're spraying the flames, and the flames aren't going away. That's when you're thinking you start to just sort of have to breathe.
Mm.
So this is being dragged out a little bit for the show.
Daniil was
obviously
particularly concerned, right, because he was part of the incident, right? Not to say that not everybody would be really concerned for their friend and co-worker.
Yeah,
but
maybe, yeah.
Like I can imagine that would be my response too if I was around the incident. I'd be like, oh my God, definitely, please, Jesus. Not that I'm particularly religious. I use Jesus as a curse, not as a...
Yes. No, I think if I saw that, I would be swearing. I would dare.
Where is that screen that Gene Haas is looking at? On the ceiling?
He's not a tall man.
Sharp up. No, that's true. Gene has some growing to do. Gunther's right. Fire in F1, not good.
It's true. Most scenarios, really, but especially this one. So in real time, this is only, I think it's like 3 minutes or something, or 2 minutes, but oh man, this feels like this episode, no wonder this episode's long, like it must be nearly finished. This feels like half an hour that we've been watching this.
Yeah. Do you think that guy with the mullet is thinking in his head, maybe I should, if this happens, maybe I should shave the mullet off?
Oh, I mean, you would make that wager with yourself. It's like it's one of the stages of grief of like,
Yes.
Please, if he's okay, please, I will shave my stupid hair cut off.
Yeah. I know it's distracting. I should have got
It's funny.
I'm a professional.
We're watching, obviously, like live reactions of people going, man, please let him be okay. But then we're also watching people clearly days, hours, weeks, maybe not months, but definitely weeks later, right? And they're still like swallowing hard, not sure what to say, reflective, contemplative. Like it shook everyone up, but there's no question.
Yeah, because it felt like, as Totoro just said, it felt like this shouldn't happen. And when your worldview gets changed, where you're like, why is the car in two? Why is he through the barrier? Why is it on fire that much? Like there was so many like break points that everyone in the sport was like, this isn't right.
This is when rewatching it now, I'm only just now starting to feel slightly better because this guy's like,
yeah.
He's the part of the narrative where it starts getting better.
Well, my ill-timed jokes didn't make you feel better. God. He's fine, Rod. Everyone's fine.
You're just looking for it. You're just looking into the flame, just going, where is he? I just want to see that hand come up. There it is. This is like landing on the moon or something. This is so powerful. This is unbelievable. He's a superhero. Look at that.
Also,
he's
knowing
right
everything
moving.
we know afterwards as well, when he's like his gloves are melting his hands right now and melting onto that fence. Yeah. And at this point, he's like, I know I'm on fire.
Yeah.
And doesn't want anybody touching him because he just thinks he's on fire.
But to get out of that and like, I mean, he's walking. I mean, fucking hell.
Yeah, that's adrenaline, right?
That's incredible. Yeah. Look at that. I mean, I know he had injuries and stuff, but look. I mean, he can look around. Like, he knows what's going on. It's incredible.
Well, and he had to be, right? Like, that
if he didn't get out, he was stuffed. It was up to him. He had to do it.
I mean, that's the insane thing about that interview right afterwards that he gave, where he was just like, I had thought I was dead. And then I shook myself out of it and thought of my family and literally just went, well, if you don't give it a try, like, what's the point? And like, that's what everyone hopes. Like, that's the idealized of like, that's what F1 drivers have. Like, I hate to be like, just bring it back to what an F1 athlete is, but it's that drive to survive, would you say? That,
it's like, drive to survive.
Like that push of this, like, no, I don't really give a shit about the odds. I have to give it a go. I have to I'm
in control of the destiny here.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the guys putting out the fires gate, he even said in the interview, right? They were even communicating. It's like, we'll blow the fire. You try and get out. Like, you try and jump that fence. But he was struggling before then. Like, all of the shots leading up to that. I was trying then to really look at, like, next to the flame. You can see him struggling, like, get his belt off, like, oh my God.
I mean, you see, even in impacts where drivers just drive into a wall, or like Max Verstappen did recently, or, Charles Leclerc slamming into the wall at Imola or whatever, at Monza. It's like, it takes them a while, but it's like, you just don't have those seconds. You just don't have it.
Yeah. They don't often respond when they're like, okay, you're right, Max. And then there's like 20 seconds and you're like,
yeah.
Fuck, come on.
You see drivers like go into the wall and they're still trying to turn the steering wheel. Like, I can still make the corner. Like, dude, corner's gone. You have to snap out of that zone that you're in. Yeah.
And gird yourself against the barrier you're about to hit. Yeah. I mean, Romain Grosjean is, I would say, almost 100% responsible for saving his own life in that situation. Yes, there were people who helped put out the fires and stuff.
Yeah.
Even if they continue to put out the fires, if he hadn't gone, I am getting out of here, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that absolutely turned the percentages in his favor for sure. No question. Yeah. I mean, all the drivers of faith, and I can think of 3 or 4, I guess, off the top of my head, but all the drivers of faith must be thinking like, we are being watched today. And, hopefully that he's looking at me the way he was looking at that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, what did Romain Grosjean do to get on God's good side?
Well, it certainly wasn't that mullet. Oy! We're back to racing.
And then we all just got back in the car and then we just drove. And then we just had a normal F1 race. You know,
this is
the
just
most harrowing F1 thing basically in living memory. And then we just had a race.
It was an all right race too. But yeah, I mean, this was obviously something that like a lot of the drivers said afterwards were like, that was tough to get into the car. And like, I mean, you've got to drive past that barrier. I mean, they fixed it and everything, but like,
then we flipped someone over.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, not great. Not great. This didn't feel good either. I mean, speaking of Nico Hulkenberg, other than being stuck upside down like a pig, this has got a touch of the Hulks about it. It's a bit Hulkish.
It is a bit hawkish.
But the drivers were like, we had to sit there for 2 hours, like, you know, absolutely sweating bullets about what are we doing, why are we doing with our lives, why are we risking our lives like this to come here and race. Time to race, guys. Oh, shit. Especially Daniel Ricciardo was extremely vocal and unhappy about having to watch the replays and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I think I said at the time, like, you can get away from that if that's what you need. That's fine. No one's going to criticize you. But, you know, people also want to, you know, relive the moment, not for its horror, but for the amazement of how he survived it. So it's reassuring to some people as well. So I don't know.
But should they? I mean, I have a rough situation with this, right? And I think that bear with me on this analogy. So in Australian
everyone
football,
fucking settle in. You go, Zach. Fucking hell.
In Australian football, if you get a head injury and you get assessed by the team doctor. And they assess you for a concussion. And then the decision to play is out of your hands. Like, you don't get to decide because, you know, you've just had a head injury. You're probably not in the best way to decide. Right. So, taking that conclusion forward a little bit further, like, everybody in the Formula One paddock went through a period of trauma and stress and shock. I don't think anybody there was actually in a good position to say, hey, we should race. I think that a lot of people might have been running on adrenaline or stress and been like, well, yeah, we should race maybe, or let's continue on. Like, I don't really think it was appropriate to put everybody through it. And we're a long time away from it now. But I think if you pull someone from a flaming car and they almost died and the car essentially exploded and broke in half, don't know if you should race that day, even if you just race tomorrow instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a point. I guess there's always... I mean, this is obviously a pretty grim thing that happened, and it's, you know, it's on the extreme end of incidents for sure. But then it's a sliding scale. Like, what's too much, and what's enough that, you know, you can't just have a driver, you know, get a bit of a concussion and you go, well, guess we all have to call it a day either. You got to make the right call.
I was using that as a descriptor of like the people involved in the trauma are not the best people to decide whether it should continue.
Well, yeah, but in this scenario, who's the people having the trauma? The other drivers?
I think everybody. I think that Drive to Survive just went out of its way to show us the extent of trauma that incident caused at the time, let alone weeks later.
Yeah, but you're saying the decision shouldn't be in the hands of those people, which it wasn't.
I don't think the decision should be in the hands of the teams, the drivers, anything like that. I think maybe Michael Massey's maybe the only person. I know it wasn't, but I'm saying that I think it's difficult for F1 to make that decision because even, I'm sure, like Michael Massey, the guy who I think made the decision whether they should drive on, I'm sure he consulted with the teams as well, but I'm sure it was his call. I don't think there was anybody at Formula One who was in a position to make that call.
I mean, there might have been people making decisions too that were like, no, we should go and race, even if that was just like, I feel like that's what I should say, even if that's not what I actually feel as well. Yeah. And then as soon as some people race, well, everyone's going to race. It's just, you know, you're not going to not race. Yeah,
that's it, right? But there's that like kind of built-in pressure. Like no one, like, you know, I don't think any of the drivers are in a position and then be like, I don't really feel comfortable doing it now though, because they're all going to be like, well, fuck, it's not just me though, is it? It's the whole team. Yeah. Like I'm not racing just for me. I'm racing for the entire team.
Sure.
And it's the last race of the season.
Obviously brings to mind Ratzenberger and Senna, where it's like Saturday, Ratzenberger has a crash and dies, and they decide, well, let's go racing. Senna has a crash and dies. And it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, it makes me think, you know, there was an incident at the Euros this year, you know, Christian Eriksen.
Eurovision?
Not Eurovision. I mean, similarly, though, at the Euros football tournament, and Christian Eriksen had a cardiac arrest on the field. They were giving him, like, life-saving CPR on the field, and then
while they played around him.
And then they played the game later.
Well.
And, I mean, everybody involved in this are athletes, but they're also people and humans. And I don't think it's fair that you can be like, I think the proof is kind of in the pudding, that you can like interview Christian Horner weeks after the fact and he's still, or Will Buxton, and they're kind of crying on camera about how stressful and insane the situation was. And then you marry that up with, at the point of time, we just went, you know what? Everybody back in the car. Let's do it again. Like, that's kind of insane to me.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you're pretty departmentalized anyway. I mean, there's just so much at stake. You work so hard. You work literally all year for every opportunity, and no matter what's going on in your life, whether it's someone having a crash at this race, whether you got a parent who's sick, or most of the time they're there racing because that's what they're there to do, and they so much is invested in getting them into the right headspace to maximize on the track that anything could go on.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're exactly right. That's a very, I think of that situation a little bit negatively, actually. And not just in Formula One. I think
I'm not
about
making
it,
a judgment on it either way.
In sport generally, there aren't many. It is also a job, and I think if I had gone through a situation like that, I don't think I would be expected to go to work or continue working that day. But the stakes are so high that
it'd be hard to say no.
Exactly. Yeah. But Alexander Albon had a really good race, and so he was going to keep his seat for Red Bull, right? Of course.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. There's Daniel. He's got some personality, kicking a football around.
I was going to say before, when we were talking about Mr. Personality, obviously Daniel, I mean, it's also the thing of like the two Australian guys bringing everything back to Ricciardo, making it about him. But he used to be Mr. Personality. Now he's just sort of like a nice guy, funny guy. But he used to be like, we fucking love this guy. Look at this guy. But now it's like, hey, Dan's here. Obviously, this is the follow-up. Which, just for the people playing the home game, we're watching the follow-up race in Bahrain when Grosjean has returned. He's wearing a mask, but, the hands.
How would you know? The hands. He's got stuff on his hands. How do you know it's him? You can't check the fingerprints.
Yeah.
So this could have been a body double.
This could be a clone.
Yep.
It's his brother.
Exactly. Yeah.
Roger
Grosjean, huh?
Roger Grosjean. No, that's not a good name. What's a good blank Grosjean name?
Roman.
Sean Grosjean. What about Francois? Francois Grosjean.
Exactly. That feels
He's not
good.
really French. Isn't he Belgian or something?
No, he's French.
He's French native, but not born in France. There's some weird thing like that.
Google. Where is Roman Grosjean
from?
Roman.
I think he was born in Geneva.
I feel like this is true. He is Swiss-born French racing driver.
There you go.
Maybe he didn't want to race for Sauber, so it was like... Yep. Let's go to early life.
Is Peter Sauber Swiss?
Peter Sauber?
Swiss.
What?
But isn't it Peter Sauber? Isn't that the team, the original
Peter.
team owner?
Yeah.
But Peter's not a Swiss name. That's a bloody Australian name, mate. Peter. Porter Sauber.
Porter Sauber. That is great. Porter Sauber.
Porter.
Yeah, it was started by Peter Sauber.
Yeah, Porter.
Who was born in Zurich in 1943.
Oh, man.
Yep.
But, okay.
Peter
I just don't
Sauber.
associate the name Peter with very many other cultures.
He trained as an electrician before becoming a car salesperson.
A bit like old mate Bernie Eccleston.
Didn't want to run the family traffic light business. He built the Sauber C1, which stands for Christiana, the name of Peter Sauber's
traffic lights. I've got a dream of selling cars.
Yeah. It's always Cosworth.
Dad.
There is an
entire... I live for your red
entire...
lights. I'm green all the way.
It turns out that if you built a car anywhere between 1965 and 1990,
it was probably Porter Sauber's car.
But it was powered by Cosworth.
Amazing.
Here's the survival instinct that Roman's talking about. If you haven't read that article, the interview where he describes the situation, you need to go and read it. It is outstanding.
The situation from Jersey Shore.
Yep, exactly.
What does he say?
I've never watched a minute of that show.
I know his name.
Are we
He's got abs, I
disassociating
think.
right now? We're like, I can't deal with this.
Yeah, it's too much. I just need a mental break. We'll come back to it.
I like that he realized that he was alive. That's got to be scary. And then I'm going to live. And then I jump.
It is a
into the
bit
thing.
like that guy that got attacked by the crocodile, and he was like, so then I got attacked by the crocodile, and I realized that's not good. It's like, yep. Good that that's good. That was a good instinct, and it was correct. But also,
strong.
no nuance to that observation there. It's his wife, Marion, there.
Yeah.
They're just a nice family. I've said it before. I think you mocked me once, but I was like, they're just a nice family. Look at that. She's sitting down.
Of course I mocked you. It's the dynamic of the show. We mock each other.
That's what you do. Yeah, it's true. We all believed it.
Yep.
Well, we didn't
And
believe
all
it,
hopped
but we
back in
worried
the
it.
cars. And we drove around.
And we all back in the cars. Yeah, we moved on from that
We all
point.
just hopped back in the cars and went, you know what? He almost
talking about
died.
something
We all
else.
thought he was dead.
Bloody hell.
Let's go. Oh,
Samba music playing. I mean, I know those descriptions are for people who can't necessarily hear, but it's like, knowing that you're hearing the sound of a wheel gun turning or something like that, that's valuable. But I've never understood the samba music playing. Like, the music sets the emotional tone. It may as well just say, be sad on the screen. You know what I mean?
I wonder if I could... How would you feel about other experiences being subtitled? Like if you were eating a hot dog and it didn't have onions on it, but it said on the menu in front of you, you taste delicious onions.
Well, I would want the subtitles to be accurate, number one.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I have no further notes.
No further notes?
No,
fair enough. Yep.
She reminds me of an actress, but I can't think which one.
What's it called? The Schrodinger's cat. It was Schrodinger's Grosjean in that moment, right? He was both alive and dead. Because in everybody's minds, at 2 minutes 40, he wasn't alive.
It's true.
But then he was. Because he's fucking badass. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's right.
He would just be a hero forever. He was in that Calvin Harris.
I mean,
as
much
clip.
as
Was it Calvin Harris? Maybe not. And then now he's a hero with the fireball.
Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, it's a horrifying thing. It's almost the sort of thing no one wants to go through that, right? But at the same time, look at his hero's exit that he's had from Formula One when really his career was on the slide. He was on the downhill. I mean, he looked like he was going to just slip right out of Formula One and be forgotten. Mm-hmm. And now he will never be forgotten.
Yeah. Infamous. You are the man who walked out. I love that. Yes, Marion. Fuck yeah, that is the response. He says so that, great. And she just goes, "Oh, so good."
That's her keeping him grounded right there.
Yeah. Are you surprised that this isn't 2 episodes? That the Grosjean thing is not one 30-minute episode, and then the Albon Perez scenario is another episode?
There's a bit that I'm surprised about. We might get into it in the last episode, but I mean, how much time we spend on what is definitely part of my overall feelings about the way the season wraps up and just the approach to it in general. But it does feel a little bit like that. I mean, this is such an incredible story, this Grosjean story. It does feel like this would have been fine if they padded it out. I mean, it's already pretty padded out, but if they'd padded it out 2 more minutes and made that a short-ish episode, that would be killer. That would just be so impactful. Because now it's like, well, I'm here for the Grosjean crash. I've got to watch another 20 minutes of this stuff.
Yeah, this is the thing. I actually don't think that maybe the show was just trying to get us really introduced to Sergio Perez so that we could really understand who he was, with them knowing they were going to do the next season to try to survive, and we won't have to get a full recap of him. Like, we would be invested in his story before the next season.
Maybe.
Because I don't think it's a particularly strong narrative. Like, I don't think it's... Albon just never really performed.
It sort of
and
is,
that's what
but
happens.
at the same time, at the end of season 3 of this show, we've seen this narrative now 5 times. So it's not that it's a weak narrative, it's just old. We've seen it before. That's one of the challenges, I think, for season 4 of Drive to Survive.
Yeah. If people kind of get it now. It's like, oh, so that's how F1 works. Like, I think that, the documentary part of people understanding how Formula One works. Like, I'm still meeting people, and people are telling me they're getting into Formula One, like, more friends. They're like, and I was like, Drive to Survive? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, cool.
Oh, yeah, so many.
And so But if you like swallow all of those episodes up, like yum, 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 more Drive to Survive, please, and then you get through them all and you really jizz to watch Formula One, you kind of know so much about how Formula One works by that point that the next season you just want like the behind the scenes looks at how the things that you saw in the season actually went down.
Yeah.
And so the interest in like, I didn't like all of the kind of the anecdotes I hear from people who are getting into Formula One through Drive to Survive are like, I didn't know that's how it worked, or I didn't know that the drivers weren't that big of a part of the thing. Like the kinds of questions that we all talk about all the time, they're asking those questions. But I think people will have made their decisions and answered a lot of those questions. And so now they're going to be watching it more like you and I watch it, which is just like, it's interesting to see get the inside scoop on what happened there. And that's the interest, right? I'm kind of used to the format now.
What you're not saying is that everybody should watch Drive to Survive and then get their friends to watch Drive to Survive and then get their friends to listen to Dare to Swear and then boom. Yes. They don't need to watch the races. The races are boring. Listen to us.
No, exactly. Exactly. I mean, how can Perez go down to 18th and still find his way into a Red Bull seat? It's almost like it's not just built on one race that he'll get the Red Bull seat. It's almost like his whole career has maybe led up to this point.
It's almost like, the ink is drying on the contract that he's already signed, but he just can't say it.
It's almost like he's sponsored by Carlos Slim, one of the world's richest billionaires, and will be bringing all of that money to Red Bull to help fund their engine manufacturing program.
Yeah, I don't know. Can we get off track, like literally off track for a little bit?
Yeah.
You mentioned about narrative points and stuff. Are you watching Ted Lasso at the moment?
I love Ted Lasso. Oh my God.
It's good, no doubt. But they're putting it out 1 week at a time. And there's this huge uproar about people going like, oh man, how dare they end that episode that way? And it's like, what are you talking about? And then the writers had to come out and say, look, we thought they were going to drop the first 3 all at once. So we didn't know that the end of that episode would have that effect. But I was like, what effect? Like, it's just an interesting storyline. Why is everyone so upset? I just don't get it. It's compelling.
Yeah,
but everyone's
exactly.
like, no, that character wouldn't do that. It's like, but who cares? Like, just engage with the show. Just see where it goes. I mean, I thought it was really gold.
Suspend your disbelief a bit. Yeah, I think that show is
a little bit. Engage with some friggin' drama. I mean, I think one of the problems with that show in particular is that it's just been such a soft ball for so long that when they try and do something that's like a little bit, that has a bit more edge to it, people are like, oh no, I'm here to feel good. I don't want the credits to roll. And now I just feel average.
Yeah. It's funny that.
Chill out, people.
Because like that show is maybe one of my favorite things of the last couple of years. Like, and I didn't watch it when it first came out. Didn't have Apple TV Plus, and
yeah, right.
blah, blah, blah. And then when I did watch it, I was like, oh my God, this show is made for me, and like knows exactly, like pushes all of my buttons in exactly the right ways.
Interesting.
Makes me feel sad or good or happy cry, or like I get really involved in it. As you know, I can with things.
Oh man!
But it's made with care, like, and
that's true.
It is really considered as a show, and I think that people are so used to just like totally gorging themselves on all the content around a thing in one small hit that the idea of watching things week to week has definitely disappeared. And unless it's, like Game of Thrones, and even that really pissed people off because they can get so deep in the analysis of one episode. I think it's happening in sport as well. Like, because we have nothing else to do because of the pandemic. Like when you watch sport, you can, like, everybody's online, everybody's got an opinion, everything is minutely analyzed, that you can't just like, just be like, oh, okay, well, that was a bit of a cliffhanger. Like, I'll stop thinking about it for a bit until next week, and then I'll see where it takes me. As you said, kind of buy into the drama a little bit. But people want answers, and they want to talk about how there's a lack of answers and what they would do and why that the people who are making it are wrong.
Yeah. One of the things about that show too, though, I think is that it's just a perfect show for the time that we're in that, and I think completely by accident, in that it's just a show that makes you feel good, and people want that, and people need that. There's nothing wrong with needing that or wanting that. Yeah. I want that. I need that. But if we went in the middle of a pandemic right now, I would not like that show. I don't think it's well written at all. So
really?
Yeah, I actually really think it's dumb and stupid and predictable. But I want that, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's...
But I mean, and some people like shows like that, but I don't normally. But if we were in a pandemic, I wouldn't watch that show.
No, I think it's procedural. I think that it's
I don't like
very,
procedural
I think that all of the Apple TV shows, like Mythic Quest is the same. I really love that show too. Again, new to that show. They're Disney. It's Apple is making, if Disney made like compelling drama, this is how they would make it. And I think it is informed by that. It is don't push too hard. Yes. I mean, it's like any Disney film, right? You know the outcome. It's the tweak on the outcome that gets you. It's that if you can suspend disbelief just enough, it will make you think that maybe the outcome that you hope isn't going to quite happen. But then it does. You're like, it does though. The relief. It wasn't exactly the way I maybe thought or planned. Like, yeah, I think you can definitely like outthink the show.
It's fan service.
But you got to buy into it.
It's exactly. But people become fans of the show because it makes them feel good, and then it makes them feel good because they're re-engaging. Like they come back to it for the same feeling. I want to watch this and feel good, and then next time there's an episode, I want to watch it. I want to feel good again. Yeah,
there's a terrific. If you can find it, I think it might be an Atlantic piece or a New Yorker piece that compares Emily in Paris with Ted Lasso, both the same, under the idea that they are both stories about an American going to a new culture and trying to take some parts of American culture and like and impress that upon and like kind of assimilate into a new culture. And where Emily in Paris is junk television, but I can understand why people enjoy it. And I watched all of it because it was junk on the background and fine.
Yeah, cool.
That show was very much about like, the French are doing everything wrong. With a bit of American get up and go, they can do things right. Whereas Ted Lasso is like, no, it's not about my Americanism. It's about like courage and heart and doing the right thing, even if it's tough. That can help change things. And that's worth investing time and effort into, but also about accommodating a new culture that he's a part of.
Yes.
So anyway, let's get back to the thing. Sergio Perez.
Formula One. Yeah, I was going to say Formula One needs a Ted Lasso.
And unceremoniously leaving the team because he's like, you know what? Fuck you guys in Aston Martin. I don't even want to be here. I'm going to go race at Red Bull and never win a race again. Whereas he overtook
all the people. And good on him.
And poor Russell. It was all going his way. Imagine if George Russell never wins a Formula One race. How's that stat going to be, right? First time in a Mercedes, led the whole thing, and then it just never happened for him.
Well, there's lots of drivers that retired that never won a race.
Yeah, me and you included. I don't think we're ever going to win an F1 race, Rod.
Look, I'm starting to doubt it myself.
There's still time. It's funny. I felt like a couple of years ago, I had said, just don't really see any random drivers winning races anymore. And I think we've had 2 seasons of good amounts of that.
Yeah, absolutely. This year and last year were both good for that, definitely. Yeah. And it had been a long time where we hadn't had really any. Yeah. It used to be, remember like a big deal was like, Chico got third. Oh, amazing. Chico, third. He doesn't finish third. That used to be the equivalent of these freak results. You're right. We did get them all the time. You could bank on 2 a year minimum, but it just went out of vogue for a long time with the winning ways of certain people.
Exactly. We need more crashing. That's what causes it. Lots more Max and Hamilton crashing. We'll get lots more stuff like this.
It certainly helps. Yeah, it certainly helps. It wasn't even that long ago that we had like years and years and years and years without any other teams, let alone like an unexpected driver. It's like you can go back 100 races and they were all won by either Red Bull, Mercedes or Ferrari. It's like, shit, that's a lot of races.
Yeah. What do you think is the stronger emotion when you have raced for a while in F1 and finally win a race, or when you win the World Championship?
Probably winning the World Championship. I haven't done either and never will. But I would go championship.
Yeah. Just, there's something about when drivers... I think if you've won the World Championship, I think you've been winning races all year. And maybe it's a bit like, it worked. Yes, I've done it. Good. What an accomplishment. As opposed to like, oh God, like, look at this. I've been working my entire life for this thing to like win a race.
Pretty... the stakes are obviously quite different. But I think winning a championship is like relief. I did it. I didn't screw it up. It was in my hands and I did not drop it.
Yes. Oh, more calling family after sporting event wins.
Let's get them to do the interviews.
Yeah. Dad, how does it feel? When are you coming home and what's for dinner?
That's good. Really nice. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't because all the cameras are there. I'm sure the cameras were there because he was waiting, not the other way around. But yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice moment. And he closes the door on Formula One and we never hear from him again.
Exactly.
Or.
I like him. He seems nice. Formula One needs drivers like this. Man, I just spent so many years just not really respecting him. And then now, like, he's doing well. I don't like wish him ill, but I find it hard to root for him, you know? Most of the drivers we don't root for, right? Like.
But I don't root against them either.
No, exactly.
Or have nil feeling, or like, you know, it's not hard to get excited for most of them.
Yeah, there are drivers you like, drivers you don't like, and then there's literally everybody else. And the drivers I like is like 3, drivers I don't like is like 1 or 2, and then everybody else. And they just kind of make up the chorus.
Here we go, completely staged bullshit moment. Oh, don't talk about my big line, dude. Fuck, you fucked it up. Can we go again?
God, Grosjean Horner's I just can't.
What a cock.
I know. And he's so good for the show because of that.
Kind of. So the show is dedicated to the FIA and the safety marshals. Absolutely. Cheers to that. Yep. The episode is technically over. We're seeing a preview of next week, but a big one. This was the big one. I mean, if you've been watching this season and you didn't know that was coming, oh boy, you were glad you hung in there for that one because that was mega, as they say. I'm going to close my window. I don't know what you're doing if you're still watching it, but I'm done. Done with that one.
I'm watching Ted Lasso.
Go ahead. You're watching Ted Lasso. Very good. So yeah, that was our Ted Lasso recap show. Zach, which is called again. Remember the name again? Better Off Ted?
Better Off Ted.
Less so long, baby.
No. Yeah. I mean,
Anytime.
Lasso. It's like a lasso, right? Like you've been lassoed in. Like it's very American Kansas. Like that's the point, right? He's a joke character that got turned into a TV show.
Okay. Anyway, well, look, sorry that we spent so long. I didn't know that it was going to go on that long talking about Ted Lasso, but I hope you're enjoying that show. Another episode down of Drive to Survive, and boy, there's only one left for this season. Strap yourselves in.
And then the podcast is complete and over. We don't have to
do any work ever. And then we just what a dream. Not having to talk to you, boy. Just imagine
bloody hell. Every week, another update. How are things? They're fine. Put the like it's any other relationship, right? We've got to the point where we just watch Netflix. We don't do anything.
What a fucking... That's the best insight about any relationship anyone has ever had. Our relationship has gotten so stale, we just sit around watching Netflix. It's incredible. Wow. Well, thanks for sitting around and listening to us watch Netflix. As like as our burning friendship like dissolves into slowly dying embers. Hopefully we can fan those flames for next week, which will be, we haven't really decided if we're going to finish off the season or do something else. But watch the feeds, I suppose. We'll work it out in the next day or two. Yeah,
we'll work something out. I think that we had a couple of different ideas, and maybe we'll do one of them, which is a great sizzle. Look at me, the marketer over here, being incredible. Like, we've got ideas. Tune in.
Exactly. Tune in next week for the exciting conclusion to our series Dare to Swear. Or it might not be. Got to leave them hanging.
Just be thankful.
No one's going to like
that
ending. We're going to get tweets. We're going to get tweets.
Yeah, we're under no obligation to do shows when there isn't a race, but we do them anyway because we like doing them.
We love you all.
Yep. Me particularly. Me more than Rod.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I know that Formula One's kind of dying down. Definitely like less Twitter action, and the Twitter action there is a bit sad. But if you want to follow us on Twitter, if you're feeling the loss, feeling the gap of the absence of that in your life, come and follow us on Twitter at Superlicense. We'll try and just keep some action going, bubbling away. A few little things happening at our Discord server as well. So I might tweet out a link to that and make sure that if you want to get in there, you know how to get in there. You can get in there. We'll be back next week with some kind of show. Again, we don't know what. Don't let it spoil your week wondering about what it is. Turn it into a fun game for yourself. And then, if you want to check out the website, it's superlicense.fm, Zach.fm. I was going to mention, too, people who follow It's true. People who support us on Patreon used to get bonus content on a special secret RSS feed that used to be superlicense.com.au, and I was worried we changed to FM. That's going to break. Good news is that's updated automatically and it all magically works.
Wow.
But I think we're going to switch anyway and just upload stuff into Patreon directly. So if you've still got that saved on your phone, keep it there for now, but you may just get content. You get an email when there's content and you can load the Patreon app and just play it, or if you have any issues at all, email us. Not at the old email address either. Superlicencepodcast@gmail.com. That's the same. Anything else to say, Zach?
No. This has been fun. Yeah. I'm glad I got to go through a bit of closure going through that Grosjean thing. And I hope everybody's staying safe and well. Getting vaccinated if you can. Don't forget.
Yes, do it.
If you can, you should go and do it, though. And that's it.
Cool. Very well said. Yeah. Well, look, again, we're not going away. We'll be back soon. Until we do come back, my name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach, with a Q.
Come back rhymes with Zach. That's pretty good. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Rod with a Q. Oh, yeah.